Hi, this is your Swapnil Bhartiya, and we are here at Cisco Live. And today we have with us Craig Woolley, CIO at LSU. First of all, Craig, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure to host you here. First of all, let's talk about LSU for our audience member who may not be able to talk about yourself and LSU. Then we'll talk about your presence at the event.
So I am the Chief Information Officer at LSU. I've been there for about 6 years. The reason why I'm here at the event is we have created a unique, I think, arrangement with the public-private partnership to do security operations centers, including students, but also including our partner, which is TechStream, in the process. So it gives us the best of both worlds in that our students are getting real-world experience, but they don't have to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because TechStream is always there helping them and monitoring them. And then they take the nights and the weekends and the holidays so that our students don't have to work through all that.
And what is TechStream?
So TechStream is a managed detection and response provider out of Atlanta, Georgia. They were one of the, when we knew we wanted to do this, and we knew we wanted to use Splunk as our SIM, but we had to find a partner to help us bring up the whole idea of onboarding students into a SOC. And so Splunk brought us different partners for us to talk through to see if they'd be interested in taking this risk where we're asking them to help us train our students and to take some of the risk as far as our students doing the work, on their behalf. The first partner that was brought to us, we met with for a while, and they really didn't want anything to do with students, right? They said, why don't you just pay us a lot of money and we'll do it all for you and you don't have to worry about students. And they're missing the point of what we're trying to do. We want our students getting this real world experience, and we also want to try to reduce the cost for the universities. So they did. Splunk then brought us TechStream. We met with them, and they right away loved the idea and were excited. And so we decided we'll do a public-private partnership where they do all the monitoring. They own all the risk, they own all the SLAs, but our contract allows for our cost to be reduced by the work that our students do working side by TechStream.
Can you talk about how, especially, let's go a bit deep dive into the weeds. How are you especially leveraging the Splunk and Cisco technologies to, as you rightly mentioned, to not only power this environment, also make it risk-free for you so that students can focus on what they're doing without worrying about consequences?
So my CISO a few years ago did an analysis of SIMs and determined he wanted Splunk. He thought it was best in breed. He thought it was the easiest, and we can use the cloud-based version, which we do. We heavily utilize, so every school, so we've got in the state of Louisiana, 35 or so higher ed institutions in this model being protected by the SOCs. Each school gets their own Splunk ES instance, and we heavily utilize SOAR, overarching all of that for our students. Interact a lot with the SOAR platform that TechStream manages for us, but they also go into Splunk if they need to do searches and all that.
When you talk about threat, can you talk about what kind of threats we're talking about? And is the onus of students don't have to worry about threat, is totally up to Splunk and Cisco, or there are technology or AI, machine learning that you're using to mitigate some of those threats, and what are those?
So our students, so we have a training program that we've developed that, again, this is being now utilized at 3 higher ed institutions in the state of Louisiana. It's being utilized at NJIT, Georgetown University, Alabama, and the McCreary Institute in Auburn, and Kennesaw State. So all these, we built this as a franchise model. And so all the training's been developed through our process. Students are trained in 6 weeks. And after the 6 weeks, they're able to handle, interact with Splunk SOAR, and they do the low-level incidents. They're all marked as level 1 through 4. Those new students know they can only do level 1 incidents. But then their training continues, their maturation continues, and then they can get up and do, category 3 or category 4. Category 2 or category 3. We don't have any students doing level 4 yet. So TechStream knows they handle all of that. But the students are heavily trained in Splunk. They're heavily trained in basic IT concepts also.
This could be a tricky question. The thing is that things are moving so fast in this space. For us, media person, we are on our toes, and sometimes it's just too much. Now, when we talk about, I work with a lot of education bodies, new students, because universities, the curriculum moves slowly, technology moves fast. So and this is a big pain point for students also, in a way. AI is also taking over a lot of low-level jobs that the students used to become interns and all those things. Yep. So how much are you looking at, because the next generation of students, it will...
Yes, and that's the beauty of a public-private partnership, because we can be more nimble, because TechStream can be more nimble. So they are already working on AI and using AI to maybe do some of the lower-level things, which is fine. The students still will do human in the loop. Students will learn how to interact with the AI and how to double check what AI is producing for them. And you're still going to need higher level thinkers to do the other incidents. And so we might have students starting in the future at level 2 and not level 1, because AI is going to do a lot of that for them. But again, this whole concept we have built to where we are supporting and protecting probably mid-40s higher ed institutions across the country with this. We just started 3 years ago. So I attribute that to a great partner in both Splunk and TechStream, and that public-private partnership that allows us to move much quicker than general higher ed moves like you mentioned. Sometimes that can be very, very slow. This is unusual for higher ed for stuff to move that quickly.
No, first of all, thank you, Shreya, because this is a serious pain point. Now, you did touch upon what kind of attention nationwide or even globally this model attracting, where you're also hearing from other states, federal level, that this model can be replicated. And earlier you also mentioned you wanted to work with an organization, they just wanted a lot of money. So let's also talk about, because sustainability, revenue plays a big role there. Not everything can be sponsored for a bit. So these are 2 or 3 questions bundled together, but I think they correlate each other.
So we have probably met with 50 schools across the country so far. Some have adopted, like the ones I mentioned. Others are on the fence. This still is not cheap. Even the model we're using, it's still expensive, but what we have convinced our state of Louisiana, who is funding our model for our state, it's a lot cheaper to be proactive than reactive. And one incident, which we had many schools brought down for weeks at a time just a few years ago before this was in place, and that's costing tens of millions of dollars for one incident to resolve. Our state is funding our project $7.5 million a year, and we're training students. In those other attacks, we had no students were trained. We just had to pay money to fix something and have the reputational damage for those higher ed institutions. So we do believe other schools do have an interest because of the workforce development aspect of it, protecting that school, and then giving those students that great experience is, I think, what is also interesting many of the higher ed institutions.
Excellent, thank you. The second part of the question was monetization or revenue generation. So it's become self-sustaining versus a kind of depending or relying on a specific.
Great point. And that is one thing that that's our next iteration of the model. Right now, the way it was designed is our schools monitor incidents for themselves. Their students monitor it for their school. It's worked so well. And since TechStream provides services to lots of commercial customers, we decided, well, why don't we also try to generate revenue by, again, everything goes through TechStream, so my risk is low. but TechStream could outsource to my SOC, and we opened up a second SOC just for this purpose, so that some of those other companies, instead of going overseas to try to save money, they can outsource to one of the SOCs. So LSU SOC generates revenue for me because TechStream pays me. TechStream can lower their costs some because they're paying our students, which is cheaper than paying a full-time person at a company. So we've got one of the largest casinos in the country is being monitored by our Tiger SOC. We've got some healthcare. We've got, I think about 7 different private businesses, all through TechStream. TechStream does the contract with them, and then they just pay me for the work my students are doing. And so I am generating extra revenue there. We're going to open this ability up to any of the schools that participate in the program, so that if NJIT wants to offer services to local businesses, or maybe there's some alumni that love NJIT and own a company and want NJIT students helping with their security, that would be an option and a revenue generator for NJIT. And then these businesses, since these students will be trained for many years possibly, monitoring that company's incidents and protecting them, it's a great pipeline for that company to say, hey, can I hire these students getting ready to graduate? We just want to hire them. They already know our environment and we know that they're well trained.
We are now here. You're also presenting here at the event. If you look back when you started this, how you made mistakes, learn from them. If you had to, like, today is the day zero, how would you do things differently? The reason I'm asking question is because that would be an insight for a lot of other folks. So what would that be?
It has actually worked better than my wildest dreams as far as how well the model worked. Probably the one thing, and I mentioned this earlier, that I would maybe rethink is that, so in the state of Louisiana, we've got 35 higher eds being covered by the SOC. There's 3 locations where we have students: LSU, LSU Shreveport, and La Tech. So they all have their own SOCs, all trained and brought up and worked the same way, all under TechStream. Probably the hardest thing is that some of these smaller schools where I say their students are going to monitor their incidents, their schools might not generate enough incidents to really keep the students busy and to get them fully trained. So I would probably rethink some of that distribution and maybe make sure some of these smaller schools, maybe they had multiple schools they cover instead of just themselves. But that's also where this idea of the revenue generation comes in. If a school has extra capacity and their students working in their SOC, why not get paid for that extra capacity they've got and get them more experience by letting TechStream bring them customers? And
if there are schools, universities who have either not considered it or may have considered, what would be your advice to them? One would be start slow. This is designed to be done in phases, which is the same way we did it. And by that, TechStream, since we've got this process down and we've done it for many, many, many schools, TechStream can come in and get you set up and protected in just a few weeks. They can have you all onboarded in Splunk and have somebody monitoring 24/7 at TechStream your incidents. I would do that. You do that first. Then our SOC, Tiger SOC, would get incorporated into that so that our students would be monitoring some of that, and that will then lower that school's costs. I would do that for 6 months at least, so that if you are planning on onboarding students and opening up your own SOC, give yourself 6 months to a year to make sure you got all the kinks worked out, you got TechStream fully onboarded, and then you can start bringing on your students and training them. Great. Thank you so much for joining me. And this is actually really important for the next generation, because people don't realize companies are looking at cost cutting. But when it comes to the current breed of employees, where will you get to the next set? So, and what you also mentioned, that organizations are also realizing that. So like Cisco and Splunk, so they also know that they will need that in future. So they are the public-private partnership that you mentioned, that is the critical piece here.
Yeah.
So thank you for not only sharing those insights, but also these initiatives. And I look forward to sharing with you.
Thank
again.
you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Perfect.